Okay, guys, just remember we're beginning to the topic of Eidim Zomim. The Mishnah that discusses Eidim Zomim that we're going to begin with, false witnesses, is on Mishnah and Daf Hey Amud Aleph. Again, remember, Eidim Zomim are a particular kind of a false witness. The false witness that gets the same punishment that they tried to cause. So that's going to be the focus of our Mishnah. We're going to see in our Mishnah a mentioning of a case where it's not Eidim Zomim, that's just plain false witnesses that do not get the punishment of Ka'asher Zamam. But right now we're going to look at the Mishnah. Bear with me. We're going to read the Mishnah from top to bottom. Try to follow along on the screen or in your whatever screen you're on. Mishnah begins, Eina Eidim Nasim Zomim Anshe Azimu Es Atzman. Mishnah says that witnesses, they do not become Eidim Zomim until they are personally disqualified by the second set. Again, so Eina Eidim Nasim Zomim. The first set of witnesses, they do not become Zomim. They do not become Zomim witnesses. Anshe Azimu Es Atzman, until the second set of witnesses disqualify the first set personally. That's the statement of the Mishnah. Ketzad, how so? What's the case? What is the case of Eidim Zomim? The answer to that question will be found about 5 lines down by the word Amru Lahem. But let's first hear what is not the case of Eidim Zomim. Amru, if the first set of witnesses say, Me'idim anu ish ploni, we testify about so-and-so, a person, Shaharag es hanefesh, that he killed someone, Amru Lahem, and the second pair of witnesses come along and they say, Hey chatem me'idin, how can you testify that you witnessed the murder of a person? Shaharei nerag zeh or horeg zeh hayu imanu osa hayom b'makom ploni. The nerag, the victim who was murdered, or the horeg, the alleged murderer, he was with us that day that you claim to have witnessed the incident, the event, b'makom ploni, in a particular place. So you say that you saw a murder in New York, he was with us. Second pair of witnesses say the victim or the murderer was with us in Vegas, not in New York. In that case, although it's clear, it seems to be that the first pair of witnesses are lying, Ein Elu Zomim, the first pair of witnesses would not be considered Eidim Zomim, and they would not get the punishment of Ka'asher Zamam that they tried to cause. They would not be killed since they tried to kill. Again, that case was a case where 2 witnesses say that someone's a murderer, and 2 witnesses say that he's not a murderer, he couldn't have been the murderer because he was with us at the time, scene of the crime, at the time in another place. Aval, however, what is a case of Eidim Zomim? Amru lahem, Heich atem me'idim shari atem hayinu imanu osa yom b'makom ploni harei elu zomim. If the second pair of witnesses, they say, how are you witnesses? How can you first set claim to have seen the crime? You witnesses, you were with us at the time of the crime in a different place. In that case, you would be zomim v'nehergin al piem, and you would be killed based on the testimony of the second set of witnesses. So before we continue, let's try to understand what just happened. The case that is not zomim, the Mishnah says, is where you have 2 witnesses. They say they saw the murderer. They saw the murder take place in New York City at 12 p.m. The second pair of witnesses say, well, the murderer himself, or the victim, was on Central Avenue at 12 p.m. That's a case where we said, that's called hakchasha. That is not a case of zomim. There might be clearly a lying pair of witnesses here, but this first set, they are not considered to be zomimim. They are considered to possibly be liars, but not zomimim. What is zomimim? Zomimim, rather, is where the first set of witnesses, we saw the murder at New York City at 12. The second pair of witnesses, they come along and they say, well, you couldn't have seen that murder, not because we were with the victim or the murderer, because you, second set of witnesses, you were with us at Dave's at 12 o'clock on Central. So the witnesses themselves, Eidus Atzman, the witnesses themselves have personally been challenged that they could never have been in that place in the first place. That is zomim. Instead of attacking the murderer or the victim and saying that in the case that they were not in a certain location, we're saying the witnesses themselves could not have been there at the scene of the crime to testify. That is Eidim Zomim, as the Mishnah describes, where we would punish them, ka'asher zamam, we would punish them as they tried to cause. So if they try to convict someone on murder and get them killed, the halacha would be is that we would kill that first set of witnesses. That is the first half of the Mishnah.